Welcome to Alaska Matters with Chris Story. To reach Chris, call 226-3933. 226-3933. Now, giving you something to talk about, here's Chris Story.
Welcome to Alaska Matters. I am indeed Christopher Story, your host for great adventures in the last frontier. We have an awesome show in store for you today. Beth Wythe is looking for your vote. She'd like to be your next mayor of this fine hamlet by the sea. We call it Homer. Will she get your vote? Has she earned your vote? And what does she have to say about the economy and the overall status of Homer as it stands right now? Might even ask her to grade Judge Hornaday as it pertains to his mayoral term here in Homer. And what does she think about the job he did? We'll also be giving away a coffee card to Blackwater Bend Espresso. We'll have our Mind Bender. You may have noticed that their sign is up that says temporarily closed. And, of course, Blackwater Bend is a family-operated small business in our area. And as you know, if you've ever had any involvement in a small business, every now and then you just have to take a break. And that's what's going on. Pat and the team are taking a couple of weeks off. They'll be back on the 15th of October, and they'll be back in business for, actually, I think that's wrong. I think it's the 9th. I'll double-check it. By next week, I'll have that for you. However, Pat has given me permission in her stead, in her absence, to continue giving away coffee cards to your favorite coffee shop. Hey, wait a minute. This just came in off the wire from Alaska Department of Fish and Game emergency bulletin. In light of the rising frequency of human to grizzly bear contact and conflicts, the ADF and Game is advising hikers and hunters and fishermen to take extra precautions to keep alert for bears while in the field. They say we advise outdoorsmen to wear noisy bells on their clothing so as not to startle bears that aren't expecting them. We also advise outdoorsmen to carry pepper spray with them in case of an encounter with a bear. It's also a good idea to watch out for the signs of bear activity. Outdoorsmen should be able to recognize the difference between grizzly bear manure and that of black bear. And they say the difference between the two is that black bear manure is smaller and contains berries and squirrel fur, while grizzly bear contains, that's right, the manure contains little bells and pepper spray. I had to do it. Homer Chamber of Commerce, Monty Davis called in this morning and wanted me to remind you that tonight there will actually be a council candidate debate at 7 o'clock. Where? Kachemak City Center. Apparently there was some confusion on council chambers availability, and they settled on Kachemak City Center. Never mind that. It's just a couple miles out the road. James Dolma, Francie Roberts, and Beauregard Burgess will be asking you to vote for them in the upcoming October election and want to see what they've got to say. Monty's got the questions lined up, and there'll be a nice candidate debate out there 7 o'clock tonight at the Kachemak City Center. Your PFD this year, as you no doubt already know, will be under $1,000, $878 to be exact. I wonder if all my friends that despise capitalism and the oil industry will be denying their checks this year. You think? You think they'll send them back and say, no, we don't agree with how this money... No, of course not. They're going to take them, and you know it. As they should, by golly. It's a gift from the state, and we appreciate it. All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by Beth Wythe. She'll be asking for your vote as mayor of Homer on October 2nd. Find out what Beth thinks about what's going on in the world in her own backyard, and win a Blackwater Bend Espresso card right here on Alaska Matters.
Gregoire Construction can take care of that paving project you need done this summer with a paving crew available now. Already have pavement? Let Gregoire Construction protect your investment with an application of seal coating, extending the life of your asphalt and rejuvenating its appearance. Plus, now available, premium shredded topsoil. Call for a quote, 235-1522. 235-1522 for Gregoire Construction. 235-1522.
In 1964, the Beatles were holding your hand, and you could buy a brand new home for less than $20,000. In 1964, the average U.S. salary was just $6,000. A lot's changed since 1964, but one thing remains the same. The Homer News is as committed to serving the people of Homer today as they were on their very first edition in 1964. Find your new home in the Homer News, or how about a new job? What's the latest city policy? Read all about it in the Homer News. What are you doing this weekend? Chances are you found it on homernews.com, your home for daily best bets and 24/7 coverage of what matters most to you. Homer News.
In constant sorrow all through his day, I am a man of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble.
You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier, broadcasting today live from the corner of West Hill and the Sterling Highway, here from the offices of Story Real Estate. Tiffany Story will be taking your calls if you would like to ask a question of Beth. Tiffany will take your question down and send it to me in a message, and then I will communicate it to Beth. Another way you can talk with Beth Wythe today would be to send me a text message, 299-7653, 299-7653. If you have a question for candidate for mayor of Homer, Beth Wythe, now would be a great time to send that message at 299-7653. Oh, look at that. It's already working. 299-7653. You can also send an email if you'd like, story@xyz.net. I'll be monitoring those throughout the program, story@xyz.net. I want to thank Blackwater Bend for making this portion of the program possible. Here's today's Blackwater Bend Mind Bender. In a recent Homer City ordinance, lightweight plastic bags were banned from use in Homer businesses. Here's your question. What country did the plastic shopping bag originate? From what country does the plastic shopping bag hail? Is it the United States of America, Sweden, or Japan? You can also weigh in on this with a text message right now, 299-7653. 299-7653. Where did we get those darn plastic bags causing all the controversy? United States, Sweden, or Japan? At this point, I'd like to welcome Beth Wythe. She is your candidate, possibly for mayor. Maybe you're supporting Brian Zach. Brian, as a program note, will be on the program next week. Now's your opportunity to learn more about Beth Wythe, city councilman. Beth, when did you discover Homer, and what makes you stay here?
I actually have been in Homer since 1973. My parents moved here when I was in junior high, and we've been here since.
You know people are doing the math right now, right?
I know. I'm old. I'm 52. I admit it openly. And I stay here. I enjoy being here. I have a great employment opportunity. And the primary number one reason, my husband lives here, and I'm keeping him for a while.
Right.
Yeah, we've been married 32 years, and I'm looking for more of those.
All right, good for you. In a nutshell, Beth, what's your assessment? And I would assume, as councilman, you would probably have a pretty good, a bird's-eye view of it. So what is your assessment of Homer's overall economy?
I believe right now our economy is a bit in flux. We're starting, I think for the first time, potentially even in Alaska's history, we are starting to actually feel the strong impact of the recession going on in the lower 48. The last couple of recessions we've kind of skated through with the gas pipeline, or the oil pipeline, and then with the Exxon Valdez issues, and we don't have something coming along to pick up that gap and provide employment for us right now. So I see that is starting to come in Homer particularly. We have some difficulties sometimes lighting on what type of economy we would like to have. Tourism as an economy is only sustainable as long as the rest of the economy is doing well. And so I think we're really in a place where we need to start looking at alternative types of income basis for the community.
Okay. You mentioned large projects. That would lead in naturally to the gas line question, and I already got a text message, and so I'll just read it. It's not necessary, by the way, to send a program note about how much you like the show. That's fine. I appreciate it. What's your position, Beth, on the natural gas line assessments? And I think the overarching question there really is, let's talk about the gas line from Anchor Point to Homer and then the build-out. And I guess that's two-part. Is that a job stimulus and an opportunity to do what you just said and stimulate the economy? And are you in favor of the assessments that would blanket the city?
As a whole, you know, and I will note for the benefit of the listening audience, I have been recused from the discussion of the gas line. So my comments for the council have been made in open meetings, you know, during the public comments, just as anyone can come in and make public comments during.
And why were you recused?
As an employee of Homer Electric, they found that to be a conflict of interest with the gas line coming in. Because I work at Homer Electric.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they feel, which is, you know, very potentially rightly so, that the financial impact may be more felt by my employer than by other people in the community.
Because people would turn to natural gas for heat versus electric?
Yeah, I think that's the potential concept, or to natural gas for your stove or, you know, other units that would traditionally use electricity.
All right. Well, that said, so what have your public comments been then regarding
My public
that?
comments have been focused, and there are a couple of things that are primary to me. One is that I feel the community needs to really be paying attention to how this progresses, because the track that it's on right now is kind of a LID driven by the council, by the city council. I don't know that, in my opinion, that the information has been made well or readily available to people for what the actual potential cost is to them. And a point that I made at the last meeting is that people will pay an assessment for the gas line to go by their property, whether they connect to the gas line or not. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's a really important thing, because they are paying for this line, which will then become an asset of NSTAR Natural Gas.
But my understanding, Beth, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you'll only pay when you connect or transfer the property at the time of sale. Is that correct?
I would say that is not correct.
Okay.
My understanding is that you will pay the assessment when it's not like a water or sewer assessment where the city kind of owns that and we can make that happen that way. The assessment district, as I understand it right now, is that the assessment will be applied to the property at the time of construction, and whether you choose to connect or not, you will still be responsible for that assessment.
Well, this begs another question then, Beth. I guess it would be, do you feel as mayor not being able to weigh in on this topic would be a hindrance to your candidacy? In other words, if you'll be kept from this entire conversation, should people think twice about that? How do you handle that question?
Well, because currently I am recused from voting, but I'm not recused from, as a citizen of the public, I have the ability to make public comment during the meetings.
Okay.
And as the mayor doesn't vote anyway unless there's a tie, and in this case, if they don't have a vote of 5 of the council, then they can't continue the process forward.
Okay.
So
you don't see that as a problem?
My presence or absence is going to, I'm not present now effectively other than being able to make comment in different venues.
All right. That begs another question, which is, what type of mayor would you be? Would you be an active, strong mayor? And I understand that there's, we have a strong management system and then sort of a weak mayor. But I believe within the context of everybody's personality, we can have a very strong, active, agenda-driven mayor, or one that just sort of guides the meetings along. So what type would you be?
I believe, from my council seat, I am probably an active council member, and I don't see that being any different from the mayor's seat. There are things that, activities and needs that the community has that I have been supporting and trying to encourage, as far as maintaining our infrastructure, maintaining the Port and Harbor, looking for economic development growth, those sorts of things. I don't see that changing at all in my approach to doing that. I think it just potentially gives me a venue for, maybe a bigger voice in that. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but hopefully an ability to carry that message further than the walls of Homer.
Okay. Let me read. I just got another text message. I've got 3 or 4 more to read, and these are all the listening audience. You guys are all, you and I are thinking exactly like here relative to where we want to see this conversation go. Let me do this. Let me ask the Blackwater Bend question one more time and give you an opportunity to weigh in on that. Where did the plastic shopping bags originate? United States, Sweden, or Japan? The number to text is 299-7653. We'll go to a break now, and when we come back, we'll ask more of your questions and mine of Homer mayoral candidate Beth Wythe right here on Alaska Matters. Treat yourself to the joys of Alaska this summer and let Dutch Boy Landscaping take care of your lawn and yard work. Danny and his team are ready to make your property look its best. So when you see the bay is flat calm and the fish are biting, head out on the water and know your lawn's going to look its best all summer long. Dutch Boy Landscaping. Call Danny today at 235-7140. That's Dutch Boy Landscaping at 235-7140. Dutch Boy, your lawn's best friend.
Talk about wow factor. Deborah Lysick at Bay Realty in Homer has a great new listing. It's an immaculate property inside and out. I mean a spotless top-to-bottom reconstructed home with ocean views forever. Cozy guest cabin, a lush green lawn, major greenhouse, gardens, two-car garage, boathouse, shed, sauna, plus what might be the world's finest fish cleaning setup. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home on almost 5 acres on Katrina Boulevard in Iliamna Meadows subdivision, and it's just like being in your very own personal nature retreat. To get a showing of this spectacular listing, call Deborah Lysick at Bay Realty in Homer at 235-6183. That's 235-6183. Or check what Bay Realty has to offer online at bayrealtyalaska.com. Call Deborah Lysick today at 235-6183. And remember, when you need results, Bay Realty works.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Don't try to take
You're listening to Alaska Matters. I'm Christopher Story, your host for Great Adventures in the Last Frontier. On the line with me is Beth Wythe. She's asking for your vote as mayor of Homer, Alaska. And we're asking her a series of questions, and you have an opportunity now to weigh in, and people are text messaging as I speak to you, 299-7653, 299-7653. We've only got a 30-minute show here. Let's get right back to it. And Beth, one question that's come up several times, and it's actually on my list of questions to ask you about as well, is do you believe that the City Council overstepped their bounds as it pertained to the bag ordinance? And to follow that up, let me read something that really caught my eye, and this is from the Homer News. It said that Councilman Lewis offered an amendment to impose a $50 fine for violating the ban applicable on a daily rather than one-time basis. That's way too much, said Councilman Francie Roberts. We're here to help the environment, not necessarily fine business owners. So to that point, is the City Council really there as a component of helping the environment? And what was your opinion on this bag ordinance? I know you did not support it, but what's your opinion of where it should go? And what is the role of council? Is it to protect the environment? What is it?
I did not support the bag ban because I do not feel that as a council for the city that our business is necessarily micromanaging each individual person's desire or how they choose to live within this community beyond the basic laws and regulations. To me, this is a personal ethical issue. Yes, there are environmental implications, but each person makes their own determination as to their impact on the environment.
Exactly. And so, that said, isn't it more of a pollution issue that maybe the city could, this is my personal injection on this, is that it's not about what bag I take out from the store, it's about what do I do with the bag thereafter. If we're polluting with those, maybe we have a pollution issue, not necessarily a micromanagement of what Safeway and other grocery stores and stores are using. And
that is very possible. I know that part of the context of the ordinance did come from the fact that there is a lot of pollution created by plastics in general. The bag just appeared to be kind of a low-hanging fruit way of trying to reduce some of that. I know part of Councilman Lewis's issues were that the landfill is going away, and now we're having to pay to transport those up the road to Soldotna. So there were some viable considerations from the environmental...
Well, but I got to call you on that one.
Still, each individual person needs to be having that choice. It's not something mandating from the government.
I agree, but to cry foul for just a second, it's not banning bags, just a certain thickness of bags. So, in fact, we're actually taking a heavier weight plastic up the road and using more fuel, and that's a ridiculous argument. But I see micromanagement all over this, and apparently a lot of people out there do as well, as you see the petitions are going around town. And the other, I mean, who decides that a customer is okay to use this thickness of bag when transporting fruits and vegetables and nuts, but not the sack of nuts inside another sack? I mean, do you see what I'm saying? This just seemed to me to be absolutely an embarrassing ordinance that I can't believe passed. Do you think, Beth, your personal opinion, or I guess your council opinion, do you think that the veto will be overturned, or will Mayor Hornaday's veto stand, and is that a good thing?
I will say that in order for the veto to stand, one of the individuals that voted in favor of that ordinance will have to vote in opposition to it, because it only takes the same 4 votes that it passed by in order for it to be approved. And so there is that aspect. The council persons that voted in favor of that could be, people can send emails to the clerk that all go to the council. They could contact their council representatives and encourage them to vote against it. But it will take one of those 4 people to vote against it in order for it not to be have the veto over.
Do you think that'll happen? Have you gotten any insight into that?
I have not gotten any insight into that.
Okay.
So I do believe that one of the things, and this isn't just with the bag ordinance, there are many things that take place at the council chamber, and because you hear the voice of the people that you work with or that you're around the most of the time, I know that there are people in the community that are opposed to them, but we get really limited objection. We have, there are strong supporters of the environment, which is not a bad thing, but we hear from them all of the time.
But don't we have an EPA, we've got the DEC, we've got the Army Corps of Engineers. Why do we need the city of Homer getting involved in that?
We totally don't.
Okay.
And that was my objection in the beginning, is like, we have other things we need to do. I don't think we need to be doing this piece of micromanagement of ethics.
And that leads me to another question that I also think is micromanagement. And this is not a condemnation of you as much as it is and my observation about a statement you made earlier, which was that the economy here may be, in fact, feeling the tail end of a recession. How does an ordinance that passed, such as the amendment to the sign ordinance, how does that help us as a community and or the business creators and the job creators of the community do better in this economy, such as outline banners, limiting the days a sandwich board sign can be used, for example? And one big issue I had was limiting the due process for a business owner to sit before the Board of Adjustment as the City Council would be in the past. Now you're limited to 7 days to appeal it, and you have to lawyer up, and that means the city's going to lawyer up and go to court. Who does that ordinance help?
The essence of that ordinance, as it came from the planning and zoning, is trying to develop a more, having to do with the visual appeal. And it's kind of driven by the concept that, if it's more attractive when you come into town, then you're going to be more interested in being in town, and very much addressing the aesthetics as they apply to the tourist consumerism community, I guess is the right terminology for that. As far as whether it helps or hinders businesses, I think that you could probably stand on both sides of that. If for some reason you feel like having somebody's reader board out in the middle of the sidewalk is detracting from your business, I can see where that would be an offense to you. But if it's your reader board and it's bringing business into your community or into your business, then you're going to be much more favorable of it. Again, I have to, I'm not a fan of ordinance for the sake of ordinance. And I don't know, I have to plead ignorance. I can't recall that particular vote, if I was in favor or opposed.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know I was opposed.
I know.
And I know a lot of business owners were opposed. And
yes.
Let me ask you this question. As it would pertain to a Wythe administration, or excuse me, a mayoral reign, if you will, for lack of a better term, what do you think about things like, for example, when Sharon Minch, then commission chair, quieted a group of people, a group of business owners that had come to support each other and pertain to this sign ordinance. Let me ask it this way. Do you get a sense that there's a validity to the anti-business feeling that people get from commission, council, and Walt Reedy and his administration? For example, like I just said, the group was quieted, and I have it recorded. I was going to play it today, but I decided not to. But basically, she says, none of that in here. Quiet. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a group of people that have taken their time to come and testify.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get that sense that the people are feeling an anti-business sentiment here?
I get the sense that I've always had that sense from business in Homer. And from my perspective, the council, the staff, the mayor, and the commissions and committees are here to represent the larger community, and we should not be stifling any conversation. And so we don't have to agree with everything. We certainly don't have to agree with one another on every single issue, but each person should have the ability to be heard. And we do have a 3-minute speaking limitation, which is by no means meant to keep people from speaking. If you have a commentary that would exceed 3 minutes, then you need to make sure you get those into the clerk's office so that she can get them to the council in the packet. Mm-hmm. We have a very diligent council right now. They read those emails, they read those packets, they're familiar with those sentiments. As I said before, very few of those sentiments are really coming forward generally in the opposition to.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of things.
That businesses have the best avenue to get to us is send us an email or come to the meeting and let us know when you're in opposition to. Okay.
And let me ask you a couple things in sort of rapid fire because we're winding down on time here. Mm-hmm. Justin, you can answer yes or no or just maybe a quick explanation. Was the in your opinion, Beth, was the $200,000 spent designing, roughly $200,000 spent designing the never-to-be-built new City Hall, was that government waste?
I don't think so, because I think it gave us a good footprint for some other things. Eventually, we will have to build roads in there, and we still retain that information.
As I said, we're running out of time. I'll leave that answer stand alone. How much was Agnew Beck paid for updating the comprehensive plan? And just off the top of your head, I
don't know that off the top.
I was on the commission or committee for a little while, and I think it was going to be just over $100,000. My question to you is, would you encourage future councils, commissions, and administrations to maybe stave off on spending six figures on a comp plan that could otherwise be the planning commission, the planning department, and or an ad hoc city committee sit for that and save maybe $100,000 or so?
I think generally when we have somebody come in and do that, we're looking for the professional expertise that they can bring to the conversation. And so paying some money to have it done, that's going to be the plan that you're going to use moving your community forward for, 10 or 20 years. And I think it's worth some investment. I don't know if $100,000 is the right figure, but I think it's worth some investment.
I wish I had 3 hours. And I really appreciate one thing that you already said, was that we don't all have to agree. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about living in a small community, is, well, any community for that matter. I think we're seeing the globe come closer and closer together technologically, and we obviously do not all agree. Hang on a second. Got an email here, a text message. And just briefly, Beth, you've talked about recusing yourself for where you work. This person wants to know, do you consider it a conflict sitting in city government with your husband as a city employee? And I suspect that after these number of years, you've already got an answer for that. So what is it?
That answer, actually, I acquired before the first time I ran from a legal counsel, and the determination was no, because it is an elected position. I
would like to see a lot more of those kinds of answers from elected officials, whereas you don't have to recuse yourself so often, because that was my personal opinion, and obviously the council felt otherwise, but I see you as having no conflict of interest with a gas line, and I see that quite a bit come up where there seems to be a conflict here and there, and I think it actually, Beth, deters people that are active in their community or gainfully employed from serving. And anyway, I would like to see that change, but I agree with your answer. I don't want to see people not run for political office simply for where their husband or spouse should work. So I guess in general, just in a sentence or so, can you sum up your political philosophy? That's a big order.
That's a big order, but it actually is probably easy enough. I don't consider myself to be sitting in any office as a political statement. My choice and my desire is only to act as a representative for this community as a whole, and as a long-term community member, I feel like I have a pretty good sense of that.
All right. Councilman Beth Wythe, running for Homer Mayor, the mayor's office. October 2nd is the election. Beth, is there a debate or a public appearance between yourself and Brian at any point between now and then?
There is. I heard an ad for you said the one for the council
Correct.
members. Next week, as I understand it, same location, same venue.
Okay.
There is, and I'm going to say the 25th, but let me look at my calendar here.
Something like that.
Yeah. I think it's the...
Yeah, that would make sense. That's a week from today, so that probably
Yeah,
is the
I
case.
think it's on the 25th.
All right, Beth, best of luck, and stay in touch. If you have anything you'd like to add to this conversation, feel free to come back to me.
Okay, great. And thank you, Christopher, for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you, Beth. I want to thank everybody who sent their questions in. I'm sorry I didn't get to them all. I know that's always disappointing. You didn't ask my question. Well, we've only got 30 minutes. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, we may only have, what, Dave, maybe 60 seconds left? Okay, I was wrong. We've got a minute, 10 seconds. It's close. It's close. Hey, you guess where the bags came from? That's right. Those of you anti-American people I've been seeing out there ragging on America about how we, are polluting the world with our plastic bags. In fact, they were actually originated in Sweden. That's right. A Swedish engineer in the 1960s invented the plastic grocery bag. His company was called Celloplast of Sweden. Gary and Bob, you are both winners. You're going to Blackwater Bend Espresso for your free coffee cards. Remember, they'll open back up in early October, and I'll keep you apprised of that. Next week, you'll have an opportunity to hear from mayoral candidate Brian Zach. It's up in 30 minutes. You want to send me your questions for Brian now. Get them in early. That's story@xyz.net. I'm Christopher Story, wishing you the best of days. And remember, Alaska matters, and so do you.
The Peninsula's home for unforgettable favorites. Great listening, 620 AM, KGTL, Homer.